So here's a question I've been sitting with. What happens when an iconic legacy heritage brand just starts to feel off? Chanel, probably one of the most powerful names in luxury, has been facing a lot of critique lately. And this isn't just about one misstep. People are noticing a pattern of price hikes, of creative stagnation, of cultural disconnect. So let's unpack this with love, but with some notes. Starting with the numbers. In 2024, Chanel's revenue shrunk 4.3%, which for a brand of this size is a lot of money. And this was the first decline in years. Now see, most businesses are growing year over year, even if meager, and even stagnation sometimes is something that causes pause. It's worth addressing here that this was part of a larger trend of attrition throughout the larger luxury industry. However, Chanel saw a bigger drop than some of its other counterparts, and I would argue, as such an influential name in the industry, is part of a responsible driver for the entire industry shrinking. Their profits were an even tougher picture, and they dropped by 38%. Their response has not been to retreat in 2025, but to reinvest. And I love this boldness. In 2024, we saw them increase capital expenditure by 43%. Which makes sense, and it adds color to why their profits dropped so much more than even their revenue did. Not only did they have less income coming in, but they were also spending a lot more, leaving a much thinner bottom line. Now, I absolutely adore their CEO, Lena Nair. I think that she's such an inspiration, and she puts it this way: we are navigating with long-term strategy, but critics are wondering, what is this strategy going towards? Many of us do not have billions of dollars to be playing with and experimenting with like Chanel does. We can learn from every misstep and every progression that Chanel's making, and they are able to absorb these ups and downs a lot better than a small, medium-sized enterprise could, or even a large brand that is not as big of a powerhouse as Coco Chanel is. Let's reflect on the brand perception and performance. Chanel has always been built on their mythology. From Coco's legacy to Karl's theatrics, they have absolutely shaped and defined the fantasy of Parisian polish. However, the increase of prices without clear innovation and the cultural stagnation and creative stagnation that feel to some repetitive or uninspired, paired with a failure to meet this desire of the younger consumer, of the millennials and the Gen Zs, who are really looking for something with meaning and responding with the same position as they always have before, feels a little bit sterile. It seems like they're mute when they should be singing. However, I'm pretty excited because just recently, in April 2025, they've appointed a new art director, Matthieu Blazy, who was the quiet force between Bottega Veneta's rise. Now, I love Bottega, and they're absolutely so much more daring than Chanel, so perhaps this will be the start of something new and a new uptick. Now, I'm gonna share with you what I hope Blazy and their leadership is considering for this next era as a way in to think about some of the missteps of the past, and a lot of these things could be applied to your organization. One of these things is addressing the gender tension. Chanel insists, and they have stayed 10 tones down on only being in women's wear. They will not launch a menswear line. However, they dress men frequently. From my icon, Kendrick Lamar, to Malik Bodian, we're seeing men show up on the red carpet with Chanel jewelry, Chanel jackets. And larger trends in the market are showing that menswear is on this scent. Consumers are blurring these traditions, whether Chanel likes it or not. And I would argue that having a little bit more elasticity and being able to evolve to meet these new trends and consumer needs and desires will help brands to be able to capitalize on these cultural shifts and trends. Let's go back to the numbers again, but instead of looking at the business at large, looking at product prices. The Chanel Classic Flat Bag, which if you are a lover of luxury, I'm sure you're picturing it in your mind, has raised and increased in price over the years. And now it's well past $10,000. And the reasoning behind this, exclusivity, luxury, craftsmanship. However, people are finding that this isn't the case and that the breaks have actually reduced in the quality that they once were. And McKinsey has shown in their studies that many, even ultra high net worth individuals to which this pricing would not be a problem for them to afford, are still feeling that luxury prices are unjustified. So simply being a heritage brand and saying, hey, we are Chanel, and so therefore you should pay 10 times as much for our product will not work anymore. They need to be able to engage in culture in a new way and create experiences for their clients and customers that people are excited to buy into. The runways, the shows, the campaigns, these are all tools in which they can create buzz and excitement experiences for their clients, customers, fans, and even for new people who are maybe not discovering the brand for their first time, but considering it. But unfortunately, a lot of the things that they're doing in these areas have been a little bit dated. It's a lot of repetition from what they're doing before. So there needs to be evolutions. Now, if you know anything about me, or if you watch any more of my content, you know that I am not a trend chaser. So it's not about, doing the latest dance to the latest trending song, or leaning too heavily into a new audience and completely abandoning and alienating what got you here in the first place. But there does need to be a bit of flexibility, like dipping into a menswear line, paying attention to sustainability and other issues that the younger generations are caring deeply about, embracing inclusion, being digitally literate, just having the finger on the pulse of what the modern consumer is looking for, and being not only a follower, but an innovator in these realms in a way that feels completely true to the heritage while completely embracing of the contemporary culture. So what can we learn, put succinctly? Heritage is no longer enough. And for all of my new incoming brands and businesses out there, this is probably great news to hear. There is space in the market and desire in the market for new and fresh ideas. Relevance must be actively earned, and every single business at some point in time is going to meet this challenge. Another lesson, pricing power must be met with emotional power. It's not enough to just inflate the prices and then call it luxury. There needs to be a strong story, narrative, and experience for people to connect to under that. And the last lesson is that yes, clients and customers want legacy, but perhaps even more than that, they want responsiveness, risk, and resonance. I'm really curious to see what Chanel does in its next chapter. Nothing is guaranteed, but I think that things could be really extraordinary if Chanel listens as it leads. So what do you think? Is Chanel still the blueprint for luxury, or is it turning into a beautiful relic just waiting to be rewritten? My name's Tosin, and I'm the founding principal of Atelier Oluwatosin. I would love for you to stay around on our channel, subscribe for more content, and reach out to us if you would ever like to discuss your business, your organization, and what it might look like to work with us. Take good care, and I'll talk to you soon.